Kenapa bingung?
All right, so good morning, everyone. So how are you this morning today? You're feeling great? All right, so first of all, I would like to say thank you very much for coming here this morning to join us to see the presentation from Prof. Myra about the Read the World, the Joys of Read Aloud. So before, thank you very much for coming, both in here, offline, and also online participants in Zoom. We have how many participants? A lot, yeah. All right. So before we start, I think we would like to hear one or two words from our beloved, the head of study program of educational psychology, Ibu Dr. Tina Hayati Dahlan, MPD Psikolog. So without any further ado, Ibu Tina, the chair for you.
Bismillah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, and the honor Assistant Professor Myra Garces-Bacsal, thank you for coming. This is the second time you visit UPI, or Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. Let me provide opening speech in bilingual. Okay. Jadi Bunda, Ayah, Ibu, teman-teman semua, training ini kami selenggarakan dalam rangka pengabdian kami, program studi Psikologi Pendidikan Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia kepada masyarakat. Jadi Profesor Myra datang kepada kami, berkunjung ke Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, khususnya di program studi Psikologi Pendidikan sebagai adjunct profesor selama 1 minggu ini. Nah, beliau memiliki expertise di dalam social and emotional learning and read aloud practice. If I'm not mistaken, you wrote a diverse book. Ya, nanti mungkin bisa sharing ya buku-buku apa saja dan bagaimana mempraktekkan read aloud dengan lebih efektif kepada pakarnya. Nah, Profesor Myra itu beliau merupakan pakar di dalam social emotional learning dan juga read aloud dan juga teacher education, yang tadinya beliau itu merupakan dosen dan pakar di Singapura, kemudian beliau berpindah ke Universitas Uni Emirates Arab, ya. Jadi beliau berada di sana dan merupakan pakar di sana, dan beliau banyak sekali mengembangkan penelitian dan juga praktek-praktek pembelajaran untuk guru-guru dan juga orang tua di dalam salah satunya adalah menggunakan buku-buku, ya, buku-buku tersebut. Nah, saya sangat berterima kasih dengan kedatangan ibu-ibu muda ini ya. We call it Mahmud here in Indonesia for the young mother. Mahmud means mamah muda. Ya, kalau tidak salah ini adalah komunitas Read Aloud. Ya, they have their own community in practicing read out aloud for all children in Bandung. Yeah, in Bandung, it's very nice. So that's why we especially invite them to have more knowledge, maybe to increase and enhance their knowledge and experience from you. So thank you very much. Dan juga kami kedatangan dari satu guru, Bapak Agus dan Bapak Bambang. Di sini merupakan tokoh-tokoh ya, pakar-pakar yang memang sangat concern di dalam pendidikan ya Pak ya, khususnya guru, dan juga kita ada dosen dan ada mahasiswa juga, mahasiswa psikologi pendidikan yang hadir. Mudah-mudahan bisa bertambah ya yang hadir di sini. Buka contekan dulu. Dan juga saya juga berterima kasih kepada peserta yang hadir secara online. Di situ ada beberapa barangkali dari universitas lain juga ya. Kami mengundang, we invite the other lecturer from other university outside the Bandung. So, saya juga ingin berterima kasih kepada panitia yang telah menyelenggarakan kegiatan ini dan juga yang sudah membantu ya, yang berkenan tiba-tiba ditunjuk menjadi MC dan juga interpreter. So, Professor Myra, we would like to appreciate your sharing your profile, your availability to come here and provide your expertise and experience in read aloud practice. And I hope there will be more practice for for our participant today, so they will bring the new maybe new or more knowledge and insight for practicing the read aloud. Ya, mungkin itu saja yang bisa saya sampaikan. Insya Allah akan sangat bermanfaat. Mari kita belajar ya, Akang Teteh, Bapak Ibu semua. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, so all right, so thank you very much, Ibu Dr. Tina Hayati Dahlan, for your opening remarks. Okay, so before we start the Prof session, mungkin kalau nggak kenal maka tak sayang ya kata orang Indonesia gitu. So we have a proverb. So if we don't know each other, so how can we love? So I will introduce you to the participants here. All right. So Dr. Rhoda Myra Garces-Bacsal is a teacher educator and a registered clinical psychologist based in Lain, UAE. Jadi Dr. Myra ini adalah pendidik guru dan juga psikolog klinis terdaftar yang ada di Lain atau United Arab Emirates University. So prior moving to the Middle East, she lived for 11 years in Singapore, serving as a teacher educator. Jadi sebelum kepindahan beliau ke UAE, beliau tinggal di Singapura selama 11 tahun menjadi pendidik guru-guru yang ada di sana. And then she's also currently an assistant dean for research and graduate studies at United Arab Emirates University. Beliau juga merupakan seorang asisten dekan untuk penelitian di Universitas United Arab Emirates pada level pasca sarjana, dan juga beliau merupakan associate professor with the College of Education, Special Education Department at the United Arab Emirates University. So without any further ado, tanpa menunggu terlalu lama, I will give the session to Dr. Myra. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So thank you, Ochi, and thank you, Professor Tina, for the invitation. It's really my pleasure and my privilege to be here. Assalamualaikum. I think this is my second time, no, or third even, I think. Prior to 2019, I think I visited back in 2017 or 2018. So it's really like coming home whenever I visit Indonesia, because I'm originally from the Philippines. So we do share Indo-Malayan roots. So some of the words are really very familiar to me as well. And I feel very privileged to be traveling to so many places around the world, talking about my favorite things in the world, which is books and reading. So choosing this particular title is really very purposive to me, because once upon a time, I was also like this young girl in the Philippines dreaming of something big, and by reading the word, I was able to access the world. So the more that you read words, the more that the world opens itself up to you. So I think we really owe it to our young children to make sure that we read the world to them. And I'm very, very happy to hear that we have experts here in the room who are actually doing community read-alouds. And I would love to hear your experiences in conducting read-alouds, and maybe if we have time towards the end, we can ask you to share and do a read-aloud as well. I'm sure all the participants would want to also benefit from your expertise. So this is our agenda for today. We do have 2 hours and a half, so that would give us plenty of time to hopefully do a little bit of a workshop towards the end. I'd also like to say good morning to our young boys and young girls with us today. So let me borrow your mommies and your daddies for a bit. And then later, we will see whether I can also do a read aloud for you. And then eventually, towards the end, there will be opportunities for small groups, for those small groups to also share their read alouds and maybe have a demonstration as well of what you've done. So our agenda, first we talk about what it means to raise lifelong readers. So when we talk about lifelong readers, we're not just talking about children learning how to read. It's them thinking about books as their friends and reading as a lifelong habit. It's not just something that they do because they have to do it, but because they want to do it. They choose to do it. And then we go right into the strategies for interactive read aloud. So it's not just any kind of read aloud. We're talking about interactive read aloud. And then some FAQs, like what are the frequently asked questions that a lot of parents, a lot of teachers have asked me over the years, because I've been doing these workshops for quite a long time now. And I've put together some of the commonly asked questions of teachers, parents, practitioners on how to do read alouds. And maybe some of those questions are things that you would like to ask as well. But at any point in time, if you think that something is not clear, please just raise your hand. I'm sure Ochi would be very happy to translate, and I will be happy to answer your. I also put together some recommended titles for read alouds, and I have also shared with Abu Tina a folder where you can access some of those picture books too. Okay, so let's begin with the first item in the agenda, which is how to raise lifelong readers. But perhaps since we are an intimate group anyway, I can probably ask you a few questions too. Do you think that what you are doing right now is raising lifelong readers, or are you simply teaching your kids how to read? I also put together some recommended titles for reading. So maybe you can translate that. Like, are you just merely teaching your kids how to read, or are you raising lifelong readers?
Okay, so jadi Dr. Myra bertanya, Akang Teteh, ibu membesarkan anak-anaknya untuk menjadi pembaca sajakah, atau memang benar-benar menjadi seorang pembaca yang nanti akan berguna sepanjang hidupnya gitu? Is it a yes or no? Yes for the second.
So it's more on teaching lifelong readers. Okay, wonderful. That's very encouraging and very heartening to hear. If we look at what the definition is of what it means to be a lifelong reader, it means that you have integrated it into a part of your identity. So when people ask you who you are, you would immediately think about yourself as a reader. I am a reader. I read a lot of books. I love sharing about books. I love reading aloud as well. So basically, it's part of your identity. So it's not just a tool that you use to get information. It's not just a tool that you use to gain knowledge, but something that genuinely gives you joy. Something that truly gives you pleasure. And if it's something that kids, like, they feel that it's a chore or an assignment for them, it's a burden for them to read, then it won't become a joyful kind of experience. So the idea here really is to make reading fun. So I think that's the challenge. Exactly how do we do it so that children have fun whenever they read a book, right? So I think it also says here exactly what you should do. You should tap into what interests them, right? Because sometimes we impose our own interests, our own choices in terms of what we think children must read, rather than allowing them to take the lead based on their interests and their preferences. Maybe your kids love reading about trucks or dinosaurs. What do they love reading right now? Or Bluey. I think Bluey is a very popular show, right? So a lot of kids also read about those. What else is popular here in Indonesia?
Apa ya, cerita yang dari Indonesia itu yang populer,
Yeah, what
yang
is
biasa
popular?
dibacakan ke anak-anaknya. Topik mungkin nggak ada.
So it could be very diverse. It could be about birds, it could be about nature, it could be about robots even. So I think the challenge is for us as parents and as caregivers to know exactly what kinds of books we can feed them. Think of them as food. Think of the books as food or nourishment for the soul and nourishment for the mind. What can you feed them so that they become even more interested? I know that a lot of, young kids are also very keen on reading scary stories, right? Right, exactly. Reading about ghosts, and as they become older, they want to read about vampires. So it becomes quite popular too. So I think really it's about us not imposing our own judgment on children's interests in order for them to develop reading stamina. So think of it like running a marathon. Who among you are runners? I run every now and again, but not as regularly. Who runs? Yeah, okay, so Ochi does. So I'm sure you're familiar with the concept of a marathon. Before you can, well, I don't do that myself, but before you can join, let's say, a 5 km or a 10 km marathon, you will have to train for that, right? And the way that you train for that is that you do it regularly. It doesn't have to be immediately like a 5 km or a 10 km. So similarly, when you read, you have to develop that stamina through practice. So the more that they read, the more that they develop the reading stamina to read even the more difficult and more challenging texts. Because if you jump right into the boring ones, they will not be interested to read those, right? Okay, so I'm not sure if you're familiar with Daniel Pennock's The Rights of the Reader. Do you know about this? The Rights of the Reader? So this is beautifully illustrated by Kenton Blake, one of my favorite illustrators. And I thought that it would be good to start with the rights of the reader, because you as parents and as teachers, for those of you who are educators and educational psychologists, should know about this. So let's try to read one of, a few of them. So the first is the right not to read. So that's actually the right of a reader as well. Maybe they do not like the book that you have chosen for them. So they have the option to discontinue reading. I find as well that as I grow older, whenever I read a novel, I give it like the first 100 pages. If I don't really like it, why will I invest my time into continuing it? So the right to abandon a book, basically. So number 2, the right to skip. I'm sure some of you may be completists. So when you read a book, you want to make sure that it's done sequentially and chronologically. So according to Daniel Pennock, one of the rights of the reader is to skip pages even. The right not to finish a book. So this is what I mean when you abandon a particular book. How many of you are on Goodreads? Goodreads, yeah? Okay, so please do follow me on Goodreads as well. My name there is Gathering Books, because there you could also create like a shelf called like a DNF shelf. Anyone? For those who are readers, you would know what DNF means. Did not finish, exactly. So it's even used as a verb. I DNF'd this book. Yeah, so these are some of the common terms or the language that is used by readers. The right to read it again. How many of you reread? Like you read a book again and again? Okay, good. And I'm sure if you're a mother or if you're a father who's a very active parent to your children, if they have a favorite book, they would demand that you read it repeatedly again, right? The right to read anything, the right to mistake a book for real life, especially if you're looking for a partner. Sometimes the gentlemen or the ladies in books are more appealing than the ones in real life. So you can confuse the book for real life. The right to read anywhere, the right to dip in. So meaning you don't necessarily read the entire thing, you just dip into the pages here and there. I do that with poetry books. I don't typically read everything through. Sometimes there are poems that speak out to you, and sometimes, you just skip pages and so forth. So that's dipping into a book. The right to read out loud, even if you're not on a read aloud session, and the right to be quiet as well. So these are the rights of a reader. And I hope that you will familiarize yourself with that. I'm very happy to see that there are gentlemen with us today, because literature, research has actually shown that the role of the fathers is extremely crucial when it comes to developing literacy. So I took this photo from a sharing given by one of my colleagues from Australia, and it says, "Dad's the word." So a new study finds literacy improves when fathers read to kids. So I think it's really, really heartening to see that there are not just women in the room today, that we also have fathers and gentlemen who are keen and interested in knowing how to effectively read aloud to their young children, to their young kids. So I have here a photo of me and my then quite young daughter. So we were doing a read aloud to Pertapis home in Singapore. So it's like an orphanage home for kids who are not with their families. And as I was doing that, and I've been doing quite a number of those kinds of initiatives as well over the years, one of the things that I realized, especially as a psychologist, and I go back to my roots here, because it's Skinner. You know Skinner? For psychologists, who is he known for? B.F. Skinner. Behaviorism, correct, right? So he is an expert on behavior, positive reinforcement, and how to change behavior. And what he says is this: we shouldn't teach great books. So a lot of parents tend to jump right into, you have to read Shakespeare, or you have to read like the classics of Indonesian literature like Andrea Hirata, for example, without really gradually building up, like what I said earlier, the reading stamina, so that there is enough interest for the children to continue reading. So it's not about teaching great books, it's about teaching them a love of reading, that they should fall in love with the book, that they should fall in love with the story and own it, and it becomes a part of them. Yes.
Butuhkan translate atau sejauh ini bisa mengikuti? Sudah. Sudah. Okay. What about in?
So everything is fine. So at any time at all that you want to have a translation or you have a question, please raise your hand. We will be happy to accommodate. So I wanted to also share here a quote from one of my favorite novelists, Catherine Paterson, So she's an American. She's an American's Ambassador for Reading 2011. She's also the National Ambassador for Young People's Literature. She has received multiple awards for her writing. And I think it's important to take note of, I think because I am on Zoom, you're not able to see some of the words. Maybe I can exit Zoom because I'm not sharing my screen anyway, right? So give me a few seconds. I will log out of Zoom so you can see everything. Okay. Okay, I will leave meeting so that you will see all the words in the screen. So according to Catherine Peterson, read it to me is a test. Whereas let me read it to you is a gift. So this is the reason behind why I asked you earlier, are you reading just to teach your children the literacy of reading, like the skills of reading? Or are you teaching them to have that love for stories and for books and for reading? And I do believe in read alouds because it's something, as it says here, it's a gift, right? But I also feel that it's a gift that keeps on giving. So it's inexhaustible. The more that you do it, the more that you actually yourself benefit from that sharing. So it's not just a gift to others, it is also a gift to yourself. So it's that loop and that cycle that I find to be particularly beautiful. So I think it's also important, given that we are not discussing here how to teach your children how to read, but rather the joy of reading aloud, it's important for us to redefine the idea of reading. And I've talked about this countless of times to, various groups of people as well. So the sense you make of a text does not depend on the marks on the paper. So a lot of us tend to think it's about decoding, right? When you teach a child how to read, it's about decoding the text, knowing how to sound out the words, right? But we forget that it actually depends first on the sense that you bring to it. Like, what is your reader response to what you are reading? I know that there are books that are very, very popular to teach kids how to read. This will be the hop on pop books, right? And they're also fun, but you know that they are targeted specifically not to tell a story, but to get children to recognize words and to get them to repeat the words after you, right? So what we are talking about here goes beyond that. It's about the relationship that is formed between the reader and the book. Yeah. So reading is also a meaning-making process. So basically what you do as you read, and children themselves are meaning makers. They try to make sense of their world, essentially. And the books help them make sense of their world as well. So it's important to recognize the context. So speaking about the context, I really love reading picture books coming from different parts of the world. And I would encourage you to also find books coming from Indonesia, because these are the ones that I believe would resonate even more with young readers. And their songs too. I think there are so many fascinating illustrators coming from Indonesia, and I think it's important for you to be familiar with them as well. And I will share a bit towards the end with you too. The cultural background and the personal history of the reader is also as important as what they read, because sometimes you find yourself asking, why am I not connecting with this book? It could probably be because it's a very, very different culture and you are unable to relate to it, or it's a very different kind of reality. But for others, they may want the exact opposite of that. They want to read outside of their culture because that's also how they make sense of the larger world that exists out there. So it really varies from one individual to another, and it's important for you as a parent to be very sensitive to your own children's interests. Okay? So, are you now ready for some very specific strategies? Yeah, for interactive read alouds? Yeah. Okay, so let's begin with a few questions, and I'm glad that we have experts in our room. The first question here is, must children sit still and be quiet? So these are what is an interactive read aloud? So before we go to the strategies, right? First, let's define exactly what it means to do an interactive read aloud. So should children just sit still and be quiet? No. So if you are a parent, and of course we're doing this, it's not just for mothers and fathers, it's also for educational psychologists, right? But the setting is very different if you're at home reading to your kids versus you are a teacher trying to do your classroom management skills to a room full of kids, right? But at home especially, do allow them to play as you read, because if it's something that punishes them, if it's very punitive, then they will associate reading time as a time when you scold them and ask them to sit still and be quiet. And we don't want that as well, right? Hello, welcome. So, because we are encouraging children, right, to be part of the story. That's why it's interactive. It says here that provide the children the opportunity to own the story, because the more that they are actively a part of the read aloud, then the more invested they are to find out what is happening next, what will go on next, right? So they can break into the story at any point in time or just be in the moment and be authentic with themselves about their response. Their response may not necessarily be something that you like, right? So you also need to suspend judgment. I find that books are the perfect tools for you to know your children. You think you know your children, but there are so many things that you will discover from them through the act of reading, because they will have very different opinions from you. They're not your exact replica. They're not exact copies of who you are and your values and all that. So I think it's an intimate bond or moment that you share with your children, and it's important for you to listen to what they have to say as well. Must you finish the book first before they ask questions? So similarly to the first question, if they're allowed to break into the story at any point in time, you're not really waiting until the very end to get them to engage with you. So the idea here is to really make the entire experience as enjoyable and as fun as possible. Okay? Clear so far? Yes? But it's challenging, I know. And you will have to be very, very patient. But I think a lot of it also depends on whether you love what you're doing. Because if you enjoy reading a story, you won't mind at all. So the setting, what is the usual setting for you when you do a read aloud? So in communities, what is the typical setting when you do a read aloud? Anyone who would like to share from our experts?
Sharing dari komunitas Read Aloud.
Yeah, what is
Ibu-ibu.
your setting usually? Is it in a big room? Do
Yeah.
the children sit on the floor? Are they like circling you around? How is it like?
Biasanya settingan tempatnya. Okay. You would like to share?
Yes. I think we have another microphone, yeah.
Izin pakai bahasa Indonesia.
Fine.
Oke, jadi sepengalaman saya dan sepengetahuan saya, jadi terutama ini anak saya usianya 3 tahun dan anaknya kinestetik. Jadi tidak ada settingan khusus untuk kita melakukan kegiatan read aloud. Jadi senyamannya anak saya. Nyamannya di mana? Karena anak saya ini kinestetik, jadi tidak bisa kemana-mana, Kak. Maksudnya nggak bisa duduk, dia itu pasti kemana-mana. Pertama mungkin ruangannya itu tidak spesial, tapi mungkin jangan banyak barang di tengah-tengah gitu, karena takut kesandung atau apa. Nah terus yang kedua, memang untuk tipe anak saya ini jangan ada benda-benda yang bisa mendistract dia. Misalkan lagi baca tentang, contohnya tentang cerita tentang balapan mobil. Ya mungkin di situ cukup ada mobil-mobilan saja, atau misalkan trek-trek yang berhubungan dengan mobil gitu. Karena kalau misalkan gitu dia tidak bisa fokus, tapi belum tentu untuk anak yang lain ya. Nah kemudian
Alright, so thank you, terima kasih. Namanya Teh siapa Teh? Teh Jojo. Okay, so alumni. Okay, so this is Miss Jojo, Teh Jojo. So
Thank you.
his boy is 3 years old, and she believes that her boy is a type of kinesthetic boy. So she has her own strategies to read aloud. So in this case, she prepared the room that is not full of distraction. So for example, if the topic of the read aloud is a race car, so she will provide the race car.
Nice.
And then the big or the wide of the room, it cannot, she doesn't have a limit. So she let the boy in a room go around and move. And then the goal of her read aloud itself, I think she has already known about the previous slides that you have presented, that she stated that
Okay, good.
and love to read. So she tried to build the vibe of the love reading itself at the first place. I
Okay,
think that's
very good. You're an alumnus, right?
Yeah, she's an
So Dr. Tina and the faculty members have trained you very well. Well done. Good. A lot of people tend to get intimidated that they have to have a special kind of setting. Not necessarily. Sometimes you can work with what you have too. And I think especially in Southeast Asian countries, the important thing really is that connection or that bond that you share between yourself and the child. So I think it's making it as special as possible. So you could just be sitting in one chair together with the child on your lap, or you could be lying down on the bed together reading as well, or it could be like a huge room where the child can also play around, like you've mentioned. So it depends on the purposes as well. If you're reading aloud to get the child to sleep, if you're reading aloud to get the child to do some kind of movement, so it would vary. But the one thing that doesn't change is the connection that you build with your child, which I think is the most important aspect of this. I also put in here different points of views from the parent and from the child's perspective. So from the parent's perspective, do you make voices when you read aloud? Yes? Okay, good. Because you can never read in a monotone. Because if you read in a monotone, chances are they will mistake you for their teacher and they will not really pay attention. And I think that's what also makes our Southeast Asian countries unique because we're very used to oral forms of storytelling. So we're very familiar with how it should be done in a way that is very, very engaging. So you know how to make your voices very quiet and at the same time make it very loud as well. And if there are like certain expressions on the pages of the book, that you would also get into the rhythm of those pages and make sure that the child follows along with you as well. But the idea is you cannot read in a monotone. Of course, it varies from one person to another. There may be a few who are uncomfortable with making voices. So we have no judgment here as well. I think the important thing is your disposition, your willingness to want to spend time with your child. Because basically the read aloud experience, it's you spending time, spending quality, unforgettable, meaningful time with your children. Okay? So no judgment here. If you can't make voices, that's fine. You also need to pace yourself as you read. Because as a parent, of course, you get tired, right? You get exhausted as well, especially if you make a lot of voices. So you have to pace yourself. You have to know your energy level as well. And you have to know how to modulate your voice. So it helps if you have a theater background, right? Because then you know how to manipulate your voice in such a way that it's pleasing to the ear of the child, and the child would want to hear more, right? So another thing that you also need to do is to make sure that you know the book before you read it. That you are familiar with it so that you don't get surprised by some of the things that you also read on the pages. Like what's going on in this story? I didn't know that this will be what's happening. So you have to know what goes on. You know why? Because then you can play prediction. You know what's going to happen next? So it's like building up the excitement, building up the suspense because you know what's coming next, right? But if you don't know where the suspense moments lie, then it will be tougher for you to really pace the reading as well for the children. So you don't become a good, well, read alouder. Is there such a word? A storyteller. You don't become a very good oral storyteller or reading aloud from books immediately. So the more that you do it, the more that you gain experience, your children will be very patient with you. Your children will forgive your mistakes. Your children will forget the many things that you did not do well as you should. But what they will not forget is that you wanted to spend that time with them. That you chose that moment to not use your social media or not do other things that occupy your time, but rather valuing the reading moment with the child. Because it also conveys the message that reading is important to you, that books are valuable to you. So that will stay with them as well. Now, if we look at the point of view from the children's experience, as parents, you would know exactly what the attention span of your children are. So don't choose books that have very, very long text as well, because you know that you are setting yourself up for failure. So try to make it gradual as possible. So if you're not able to, if you do want to persist in reading longer texts, then maybe you can postpone the next few pages the next night. So there is also a buildup of suspense in terms of what happens next and so forth. Okay? The idea is you are sensitive to the needs of your children. So it's also important in conducting read alouds that it becomes part of your family routine. Because if it's something that you just do every now and again, then it will not be as effective as compared to it's part of your identity as a family. Remember that we are raising lifelong readers here. And in order for them to incorporate reading into their own personal identities, then it's important to think of that as something that your family does together. It's something that you celebrate doing. Another is it's important for you to note down all the elements of the book. So it's not just about reading the text or the story itself, it's also familiarizing yourself with who the author is. Who is the illustrator? So reading all of those things as well. From what countries do the authors and the illustrators come from? It's also important to investigate the back blurb of the book. So for example, this one, let me read How to Make a Bird. Okay? The back blurb says, and let me read the names of the author and the illustrator. The author is Meg McKinley, and the illustrator is Matt Otley. Both of them are from Australia. So I love picture books coming from Australia. So the back blurb says, breathe deeply and take your time. The making of a bird is not a thing to be hurried. Because the title of the book is How to Make a Bird. Yeah. Okay. So I will tell you more about this particular picture book a little bit later. But you have to note down all the elements of the book, even the dedication page. Yeah. Because sometimes the authors and the illustrators would dedicate the book to their mother, to their father. So you have to read that as well. And even the author's note and the illustrator's note, because it adds even greater depth and complexity to the story, especially if it's a diverse picture book, which I would really, really recommend that you read, because it's not just about knowing about ourselves, it's also about knowing about other people. To have that kind of global interconnectedness and global awareness. And that's how you build empathy. I think our session on Thursday will touch on that specifically, on reading to develop empathy skills, on reading to develop respect for people who are different from you, and reading for social and emotional learning, basically. Okay? So it's also important for you, do you know what, so let's look at the anatomy and the details of a picture book, right? Do you know what this is called? A lot of people, a lot of teachers, a lot of parents ignore this part. Yeah? What do you call this? Anyone who knows? These are called end papers. Yeah, they're end papers. And sometimes they differ from each other. And even that is connected to the story that the authors are trying to tell as well. So let's examine some of the other end pages. This one is also from Australia, so you will see my bias here in terms of like, this one has no end papers from Australia. This one is from Italy, Forever. So I'm trying to bring the world to you through books. So you can see here Forever by Beatrice Alemania. You can see that there is even like something indicated here. So this is the dedication page. To anyone who thinks that nothing lasts forever. Yeah, so that's the end papers, right? And then you could also compare it here. You could even read like when it was published. Maybe it was published the year your child was born or something like that. So they could also relate to that. So the idea is nothing is irrelevant. Everything is important as you read aloud. And make sure that you do not ignore the art, the images, Because sometimes there are things that are found in the images that are not found in the text. So you have to be able to point that out or get the children to point that out to you. Like, what is happening here? What do you think is going on here in this story? So again, it's that engagement with the book and the reader and the one that you're reading aloud to. So that's a very intimate kind of connection too. Okay? So, like I said, engage your children in reading, ask them their thoughts, hear their opinions. So before, when we were younger, well, at least those in my generation, children are meant to be seen and not to be heard, right? But now it's not that way any longer. So you have to give them their voice and allow their voices to be heard in that time that you spend with them. Trust me, when they grow up, you will miss those moments of really just having that space and having that opportunity to listen to what they have to say. Yeah? So, like I said earlier, use the reading time. Think of that as your meditation. So it's a time for you to pause and sit still and have that quiet moment or energetic moment or lively moment, be as it may, with your children. That's exactly why I love reading. Because for me personally as a reader, it gives me what I call my cone of silence. For that singular moment alone, I am just with the words in the book that I am reading. And I am transported somewhere else. I am not where I am now. I am where the author takes me. So it's like flying, almost. It's like being outside of your body, but at the same time, it allows you to get to know who you are even more. Because then you realize certain things about yourself that you may not know before you've read the book, right? Keep listeners invested in the story. I'm sure you know about the art of prediction, right? So ask, what do you think will happen next? What will happen here? What do you think this person is feeling? And so on and so forth, right? So the more that you keep them invested in the story, the more that you are not focused on teaching them how to read, the more that you are not focused on teaching them how to recognize the words in the page, the more that you are part of the story, the more that you are building the story together with your children. And that's an exciting thing to happen. So what to avoid in read alouds? Don't read too fast. Because then your children will know, this is something that is being rushed. Maybe my mommy or my daddy wants to do something else and they just need this to be over and done with. So it's not that. You have to give time for the read aloud. So it's really about the quality time, honestly, that you spend with your children and that moment where you get to know them even further as human beings. They may be small, they may be tiny, but they are human beings with their own thoughts, with their own feelings, with their own spirit. And it's important to honor that as well. Do not read to yourself. So when you read aloud, you are not reading to yourself. You are reading to an audience. So if you're reading to an audience, you need to be able to capture their attention. You need to be able to engage them. And I think a lot of it really depends on whether you enjoy what you're doing. Because if you do not, if you yourself are not having fun, your audience will not have fun too. So you can't read to yourself. You know that what you are doing is giving a gift. And as you give that gift
with your
you
children,
also get a gift
where you
in
know
return.
that even
When
further
they
as
listen to you,
they may
when
be
they share
small,
with you what they're thinking and what they're feeling. Okay, so how do you engage reluctant and energetic children? So our what's her name again? Our Jojo. Miss Jojo has already given you very wonderful tips and strategies on how to engage energetic children. I remember when I visited a former student of mine in Sydney, so I stayed in their home. They were very generous. They were very kind enough to offer me a room in their home for the entire week that I was staying there for a conference. And they were both my students previously in the Philippines, and they have children around that age, 3, 5, 7. And their struggle really was because they were all moving around, very energetic. And I remember my student being amazed, like, how did you get them to listen? Because I did not require them to listen. You see, I just opened a book, told the story, and they listened because I did not ask them to do what they did not want to do. And if they don't want to hear what I have to say, I ask them what they think is going on in the story. So again, it's not so much about reading word per word, but engaging the children with the story. So I didn't read a lot of the pages, but I got the children to engage with me by asking them. That's why it's a picture book, right? There are many pictures there that will give an idea to the child what is happening to the story. So get them to share with you if they don't want to listen to you initially. So again, it's not about teaching them, but about letting them know that the story is actually beautiful and worth listening to. So provide more venues for responding. So it says here, please avoid teaching while reading. I know, especially for parents and for psychologists, you get that urge. Let's use this opportunity to sound out the words for A for apple, B for bird, right? Maybe there are moments when you do that. Exactly. So that's your purpose, to teach them how to read. But this is not it. When we talk about raising lifelong readers and engaging in read alouds, it's not this aspect of it, okay? But there is also a benefit, and of course, you can very well do that, but do not confuse that with the bonding time that you share when you actually just want to read a story with your kids, okay? So avoid that urge. Give spaces for the child to share what he thinks is happening to the story. So very similar to that experience in Australia, when the children do not want to listen to what I have to say, then I listen to what they have to say about the book. Yeah? Get them to, maybe they have a very different interpretation of what's going on in the story, and kids will surprise you endlessly. And that's the joy of Read Aloud as well, because then the story becomes very different altogether because they came up with a different story from what the authors have written. And sometimes it's even better, right? Because now they will contextualize it from their own fields of experience. So the entire idea here really is to make reading an adventure. Make it as joyful as you possibly can. Yeah? Okay, so I think now is the time for me to share a little bit about an initiative that we have done in our university. Okay, so every March, it's known as the Reading Month in the whole of United Arab Emirates. I think it was 2017 when His Highnesses really wanted to put a value on reading. So they declared March as the month of reading. So what we did, I think this was back in 2023. Perhaps we should mute. Okay. So what we did, I initiated a month-long reading festival for our college. And the theme really is teachers and leaders as lifelong readers. Because I wanted teachers to be at the forefront when it comes to developing that passion and that pleasure for reading. So I'm very, very happy that I am supported, and we have such very encouraging and affirming leadership team in our college. So you can see here that we are the conveners. We have Mona Al-Janahi. So she used to be the assistant dean for student affairs. She's now the vice dean of the college. We also have Dr. Najwa, who used to be our acting college dean and then became our vice dean, but now both of them are Emirates, actually. So Dr. Najwa has just left the university, very sadly, to join Kalba University as their vice chancellor. So from vice dean, she became vice chancellor at Kalba University in Sharjah. And then there is me as the assistant dean for research and graduate studies. So this entire month-long festival was held under the patronage of our chancellor, university chancellor as well. So we really had like different kinds of activities practically every week. So this is again how you promote, right? That love for reading. So we had workshops on storytelling, illustration, and publishing. We even had literary cafe sessions. So we had like cafes around Al-Ain, and then we invited our distinguished Emirati novelists, poets from the UAE to read aloud from their novels, from their poems. And then we also had conversations. So the author, the Australian author of this picture book, we managed to invite him to be one of our esteemed speakers, and he is a huge name. So Sean Tan is someone that you should know about. Anyone who knows Sean Tan? He is actually originally, well, his parents, his father is originally from Penang, Malaysia, and then they moved. He was born, I think, in Perth, Australia. He is now based in Melbourne. So he is like half Southeast Asian, right? I think his mother is Irish Australian, if I'm not mistaken. But Sean Tan won the Oscars award for directing a short animated film based on a picture book that he wrote and illustrated himself. So he is both the author and illustrator. He also received the Astrid Lindgren Memorial Award, which is like the Nobel Prize for children's literature. So that's how huge he is. We did not manage to convince him to fly to Dubai. So it was just virtual. But we held that conversation with him at the Mohammed bin Rashid Library in Dubai, which is a beautiful, beautiful library. And he gave us permission to watch. He sent me a copy of the Oscar award-winning short animated film, The Lost Thing. So we showed it to the children who attended. There were kids who attended from different parts of the Emirates. It was a tightly packed audience. So it was really a beautiful, beautiful experience with Sean Tan, and we were glad to have that time with him. We also had reading challenges. So we opened it up to the entire, not just college, but the entire university. So we had participants coming from medicine, from engineering, who really wanted to just be part of that reading challenge. And most importantly, we had literacy outreach activities. So in the literacy outreach activities, we visited a senior's home in Dubai. Initially, we wanted to read aloud poems to them. You know what happened? They ended up reading poems to us. Poems that they wrote themselves, like original poetry, because the UAE and the Arab world is known for poetry, right? So that was a real beautiful experience. We also had outreach activities with students of determination. So that's the term that we use for children with disabilities. So our undergraduate students who are specializing in special ed visited one school that caters specifically to students of determination, and they've done read alouds, interactive activities as well. We also visited a school that caters to disadvantaged children. So a few are refugees, a few are coming from, disadvantaged homes and families. So we also did a read aloud. But the most important experience for me was when we, so it's not just undergraduates, we also had graduate students, PhD students. who joined our team to do so they're part of the team basically, to do a read aloud at Tawam Hospital. So Tawam Hospital, well, one part of it caters specifically to children who are terminally ill. So we visited like cancer patients who are children in that ward. So just securing permission to do that was pretty difficult, but I think it's really, really worthwhile, right? So I wanted to share with you our experience when we did that. Because one of our undergraduate students, Noura, that's her name, that's who she is. She knows that I have used her pictures and our experience even in my blog. It's actually published in my website, gatheringbooks.org. So Noura is one of our top students. In fact, she has just recently graduated. She served as my research assistant in another research project that I am heading. She is now taking her master's in the coming fall semester, inshallah. So she got accepted to the program. But she was very, very excited when she learned that we are doing that literacy outreach and read aloud to children who are terminally ill. So she had a box of pens and papers, because she had like an entire idea in her mind about how she will read the book, Have You Filled a Bucket Today? So she even has like a little bucket of sorts, and she was so excited to read aloud from that with a lot of activities that she has planned. What do you think happened? Anyone? So this is the expectation, which is different from the reality. What happened? What do you think happened? They played with the bucket? Okay. Any other thoughts? What do you think happened? The kids engaged in reading. Okay, thank you, Dr. Tina. So this is us. This is our team going into, so we cannot take pictures with the children. So we only took photos from outside before entering the space. So what happened in reality is that the children did not have, thank you, did not have the energy. They're sick. They're terminally ill, right? So the things that we are thinking of in terms of like popsicle sticks, artwork, activities, they will not be able to do that. They will not be able to engage in that because a lot of them are just sitting down in their hospital beds, with their mothers. They don't have the strength, they don't have the energy, right? So I let Noura, because she has lots of energy, she did everything right. She did everything correctly, but that the child is weak. So first we were given let's name her O. So O is 6 years old and she was with her mother. So when I noticed what was going on, I immediately took over after she has finished reading the book. But I could see that she was like, what am I doing wrong? Because I've done everything right. I have, I'm reading aloud. I'm doing my voices. So I took over and I brought quite a number of picture books with me. But I just felt that maybe this is the perfect book to read to her. So the one that I shared with you earlier, which is called Forever by Beatrice Alemania. So the great thing about this book is that, if you hold this, please. Yes, there you go. So maybe I'll read from the first few pages so that you will see what it's about. Okay? There are lots of things in life that don't last forever. Sometimes things change. Sometimes they fly away. Sleep is over when you open your eyes. Yeah? So each page turn, she says, no more. So now there is like a level of, because she doesn't like just being read to, she wants to read with. the person who is reading with her, then there is greater engagement, right? A scratch or a scrape goes away almost. It might not even leave a mark. See? And then she goes again, no more. So each page turn that we do, there's always a no more. Let me run through the, there you go. So the last few pages here, which I felt was quite moving too. So it says here, leaves fall. Okay. Hair can fall out too. So I didn't realize this at the time when I was reading it. Then, no more. So she related to this even more because she had no more hair. Yeah, because of all the treatments that she was going through. And you can see here, there. Yeah, some things last forever. So the idea behind the book is that everything disappears, it's no more, but there is one thing that stays the same. It's the love of the parent and the child. So when we got to that, she immediately looked at her mother because she recognized that this is my mom. So it's not about reading to the child, it's also about reading with the child. So you have to listen to, again, their voice and get them to respond to you. So that was the first child that we were exposed to. So she's 6 years old. The next one is a boy. So I told Noura I will take over. So that, because it's also a learning experience for our undergraduate students, they get to understand the reality that you have to play it by ear. When you do a read aloud, you really just have to be sensitive to what is happening in the environment, what is going on with you, what is going on with the child, and respond to that in the moment as well. So this is a beautiful book. So I'm glad that I brought everything, all the books that I brought with me. Maybe it was providential, because typically I just choose this one, The Red Tree. Because the Red Tree by Sean Tan is also absolutely beautiful. But I felt that this would work best, I think, so let's name him K. He's 12 years old, he's a boy, and he was surrounded by his other siblings who were also there, maybe 8 years old, 10 years old, I think he's 12, thereabouts. So I thought, I think he would benefit more from something like How to Make a Bird, because it's about building something, right? So let's see How to Make a Bird. I hope I will be able to. Okay. So, so How to Make a Bird. And the words are few, so it's easy, right? To make a bird, you will need a lot of very tiny bones. They will be smaller than you imagine. Some so tiny they are barely there. So initially, when I started reading, let's say, were all doing other things. They were on their iPads, they were on their phones, but the minute that they heard what was going on, that something is being built, that we're going to do something as we read it, then they begin paying attention, right? And they will be hollow, these hundreds of bones, so light that when they rest in your palm, you will hardly feel them. Because they like collecting things, right? Young children. These are what will float on air. Those tiny, tiny bones. Take these bones and arrange them into a bird shape. Any bird shape will do. The proud arc of an eagle, the soft curve of a sparrow. So that's when I paused and I asked them, what bird would you like to build? If you were a bird, what would you be? So what do you think they chose, knowing that we're from the UAE? What kind of bird? would a young boy choose from the Emirates? Do you know? They're quite known for it. It's not just camels that we are known for. It's also falcons, right? They raise falcons. They not just raise them, but race them as well. Like there's racing of falcon, just like camel racing. There's falcon racing. Yeah. Breathe deeply and take your time. The making of a bird is not a thing to be hurried. So I asked them to also take a breath. So they took deep breaths. Everyone take deep breaths because you cannot hurry the making of a bird. Next, you need feathers. Sorry, for warmth and for flight. Smooth these over the bones of your bird shape and press them firmly into place. Save the longest feathers for the wings and the tail. These are what will lift your bird into the air. Okay? So I will not finish the book. Thank you, thank you. But you see that it's a little more attuned, I felt, to that young boy who wanted to be taken out of that room that he is in and take flight. Basically, he is the bird, essentially, as he dreams of something far away. And this also empowers him that he can build it, you know? So immediately you can see all the other siblings just crowding onto the page of the book and just wanting to find out exactly what happens. Like what is the bird? I mean, what does the bird look like in the end? And then when we finished the story, one of the questions he asked was, so who will take care of the bird? How will the bird eat? So I told him, well, the universe provides. The birds will be able to provide for themselves eventually. But it became so real to him that he was concerned about what will happen to the bird later on. So one of the things, so these were the books that I brought with me, all of them really, really very good, but these are the unexpectedly perfect read alouds at that given moment to those two children. And so that's the reality, I think. Okay, so I wrote about that experience in my website, Gathering Books, and I wanted to share my reflections with you as I have already written them on my website. So I noted here that once again, if you would allow me to read, I realized that in read alouds, it is not the one doing the reading that takes charge of the entire experience. So you are not the one in charge, basically, as the reader, but the one who is being read to. And the child's agency as the narrative unfolds, providing spaces for the readers to insert themselves into the story and allow it to do its work seamlessly. It's not about the adult's favorite books or your plans or even your goals, because you saw from my student, she has a lot of goals, right? She has a lot of objectives, but it's the children's goals. As we have the privilege to get to know them and their dreams through the pages of the book that we are reading together. So the experience has made me even more convinced that a special kind of read aloud happens when in the process of telling a story, a new one emerges. A new story is given birth, as brought about by the connection between the reader and the one being read to. So it's another narrative entirely breathed into existence by the unique bond forged in the brave and vulnerable act of not just reading words off a page, but actually making a story come to life. So this is what I've written in, I've shared the QR code because I felt that this fully captures the beauty of what it means to do a read aloud. When a new story starts to emerge from the story that you are reading aloud, because of the connection that you have formed with your child, then that's when you know it's a special, special kind of moment, right? Yeah? Okay, so here are some. Do you want a break now? Yes, you have a question. Okay, go ahead, please. Yes.
Okay. I'm a teacher in grade 4 in elementary school.
Okay.
I manage 30 students in my
Okay.
class, me, myself alone. And I start to read aloud in my class before study, like 15 minutes. I done it for 2 years. But because of 30 students I hold in my class, I cannot hold the textbook. So I use the focus, yeah, projector like that. So after we done 2 years in read aloud with this projector, with the projector, my students are love to hear the story. They love everything we done with the story. But at the end of the year, when we change the teacher, they upgrade the level. Yeah, the next level. So nothing left from the activity we done together. They love me as a storyteller. I cannot make them love the books. That's my problem for 2 years, 2 classes. Yeah, because I don't hold that textbook like that because of 30 students. Yeah. So I use the projectors every single day for 2 years. They love it so well. They really like, wait, what's next? What's the story tomorrow? They love me as a storyteller. But when they change the teacher, like, I want Miss Mia as well. I want, because she's good storyteller. Inside my heart, of course, I feel fail to make them a long life story, a long life reader.
So your
They-
name is Miss
yeah.
Mina?
Mia.
Mia.
Yeah.
Miss Mia.
What's wrong with me? I want them to love the books, and yeah,
Miss Mia, there is absolutely nothing wrong with you.
yeah, I feel like Nora. I feel like I have the same. I have same energy.
Yes. I have a suggestion, Miss Mia. My recommendation is that you should train the other teachers on how to do a read aloud. Yes. I think you should have a conversation with your school principal and just have like I'm sure you have opportunities for professional development amongst yourselves, that you're all able to learn from each other in schools, right? In educational contexts. I think you should share what you know and what works on how to engage young people in reading. You're already doing a fantastic job. So there is nothing that you should change. In fact, we should duplicate you or triplicate you. Yes. Yeah. So I think let's just go through very quickly some of the other slides because it's only a few anyway that I have left, so that we will have a little bit of a break that is combined with the workshop, which is you reading some of the books that I shared. And at the same time, maybe if you've brought your books with you, and hopefully towards the end, we could have a volunteer of someone who would like to share and do a read aloud to the others as well. So here are some of the commonly asked questions that I would often encounter when I do workshops. My child hates reading. Do you hear this often as well? What should I do? So my mantra here is that there are no non-readers. It's just a reader who has not met the right book yet. So if they hate reading, maybe you are not exposing them to the books that they will eventually fall in love with. So you have to provide them access to as many, as diverse a number of books as possible. So look at your children's interests, what captivates them, what engages them. Make sure that those are the kinds of reading materials that you expose them to. Regardless of what happens, no matter how tired you are, even if you're on a trip, make sure that you regularly have at least 20 minutes of reading time with them. So consider that a sacred, untouched time, even if you're tired, even if you're sick, because you don't have to read, you know? It's the read aloud experience. Get them to read for you. Get them to tell you what is happening in the story. It's that quality moment that you have with the book and with your child, okay? It's not a chore, it's a gift. It's a beautiful experience. How do I select appropriately leveled books? So these are the common questions, right? Should we give them like level 1, level 2? I personally do not ascribe to that. I read picture books to adults. They're beyond, way beyond, way below their level. But for me, it's really more about matching the child's interest rather than matching the child's age to the level of the book. So do not be too rigid when it comes to determining these kinds of appropriate levels. It's really about the interest of the children. And make sure that you find the time to read the books yourself so that you know whether it will be a good match to your children. So no shortcuts to that. At what age do you stop reading aloud? Are your kids too old for read aloud? So I shared here a few photos of myself and my college kid. I have a 22-year-old. So she is studying in Seattle University, and she's home for the summer. Every time she would come home to the Emirates for the summer, we will have a book club of 2. So in that book club of 2, we read the story aloud. So you can see here the transition from different stages. So a picture book should be on the reading list at every grade level. In fact, even in high school, there are sophisticated, complex picture books that can actually be introduced to secondary level students. No one is too old for a read aloud. Even the elderly, I think, will benefit a lot from read alouds. Reading aloud is the gift that keeps on giving. Read until you are able. So this is when I think my daughter was 15, 16. So we read aloud, like we literally read aloud novels. So this is, I think, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. So she was so upset with Mr. Darcy. She did not like Mr. Darcy or the entire culture, that entire experience of finding a husband and so forth. This is from last year when we read aloud Normal People by Sally Rooney, because she's an adult. So we can read like adult fiction, but we do read aloud. This month we are reading One Day. Anyone who knows One Day by David Nichols? I think it's been made into a Netflix series. Yeah, so it's a love story. So we literally read it aloud, like a few chapters per day. So it's more than 20 minutes actually when we read. Sometimes it's 45 minutes, sometimes it's an hour depending on her stamina, but we really read it aloud. Yeah. So here are some recommended titles for read alouds. So if you are the energetic type, then it could be like, oh no, the ants are here, which I think would also resonate with a lot of Southeast Asian countries when your home is being invaded by relatives, by friends who are coming to visit, right? And then too many tias, so it's almost practically the same, right? But this one is coming from a different Latina culture altogether. And summer is for cousins. I think South Asian author and illustrator We have Egyptian lullaby here for a grand aunt. So this is not even a grandmother, but a grand aunt who came to visit. So you should also explore picture books about identity. So it's not just about the fun, the enjoyable, but it's also about giving them that sense of rootedness about who they are. I Can Be All Three because it's culled from the author's own personal experience. And the entire story is about this young girl being asked by their teacher to come up with something that depicts who she is or her culture. And she has been struggling about this because her father is Indian, her mother is German, and she's living in the US. So, what is her culture? Right? And we see a lot of these kinds of multiracial children in our schools today, wherein they're not just one or the other. My own child, born in the Philippines, raised in Singapore, spent her high school, 2 of her high school years in the Emirates, and now in the US. So we see a lot of these, children going into different countries and so forth, right? The beautiful thing about this book is that the child gains a realization that I can be all three. Yeah? And it reminded me of, do you know who she is, this woman here? She's a famous African American poet, Maya Angelou. Yeah, so Maya Angelou noted that I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. Because we are not just one or the other. We are multiplicities. Within us are universes. So it's important to acknowledge that too. So a lot of picture books as well about where are you from? And there's even one book that says I am from. So I thought it would be good to kind of pair them. So books that kind of like speak to each other are also very ideal. Okay? So also about body image issues. This picture book, Big by Vashti Harrison, actually won the National Book Award, if I'm not mistaken, when it came out. And it speaks about this young girl who was always told by well-meaning adults that maybe you should exercise and all that. So it really hurt her a great deal until she found the courage to say that your words hurt me. Yeah? But these are like beautiful, beautiful narratives. The Masjid Kamal Loves is also pretty fun. I wanted to read Salah in secret, but I think it will make me cry. But this is one of the books that I keep on recommending to librarians, to teachers, to school principals, because it's a beautiful, beautiful story about a young boy struggling to find a space in his school. So ostensibly, maybe he is in Europe or a different part of the world wherein Muslims are a minority, and he can't find the space to read. So now is my time to invite the children for me to read. Maybe I can get them to, hopefully. I have here a book. So who knows how to read? Who among the children here already know how to read? Who can help me? Who can volunteer to be my assistant and to come in front and help me? Kak?
Ada yang mau membaca?
Who is not shy? So children, are you ready? Yes?
Yes.
Very good.
Good girl.
Thank you, Langit. And because we only have one girl, I'm not counting our teenager, tweener here. So we only have one girl named Langit with us. I will read the book, One Girl. Everyone ready to listen? Yes? Yes? Okay. So the author is Andrea Beatty. And the illustrator is Dao Pumiruk. I think she is from Thailand, if I'm not mistaken. She's Thai American. One Girl. Okay, what do you see here, kids? What do you see here in this page? What do you find?
Ayo, langit lihat apa di situ?
What do you see here?
Ada apa aja? Ada buku, ya. Good, ada
Very
buku. Ada apa
good.
lagi?
There are books, right? In this page. One girl. One girl. One spark. Faint and fading in the dark. Flicker, flicker, flicker. Tiny ember burning low. Where is the child going?
Mana ya kira-kira anaknya? Dia pergi kemana ya itu?
Yeah. One girl, one spark. Yeah. Glowing, growing in the dark, burning. Burning, burning, fire. What is that you see?
She said she sees an airplane.
An airplane. What else?
Ada apa lagi di situ? Stars.
Stars.
Good.
Very good. One girl, heart's desire. Brighter, brighter. Brightest bright. One girl in the light. What is the girl holding? What is the girl holding?
Apa yang dipegang? Apa ini?
A pencil. And what is there in
Pencil.
the pencil? Yeah. What is there in the pencil?
Apa yang ada di pensilnya?
Look at the pencil. There's like a rainbow. Very good, Langit. One girl growing strong. One girl glowing shares her song. Who would like to sing?
Ada yang mau nyanyi?
Yeah. Brighter, brighter, brightest bright. Filled with wonder. Heart takes flight. Words like comets through the night. What are those? Comets. Those are like shooting stars. See?
Shooting stars, bintang jatuh.
Yeah? Blazing streaks of blinding light, seeking out the darkest dark.
Yeah, good.
To bring
Bumi.
one girl, one shining spark. And that is the end. Yay!
Good
So,
job.
for the adults, you could also see here that the author's note talks about young girls not receiving the education that they need, and about how a book can serve to be life-changing to young girls in different parts of the world, especially to those who are not given permission to even learn how to read or how to write. So that's why this story came about. Yeah? So that's it. And before we go on a short working break, let me share something else with you. So in Singapore, I served as the program director for the Asian Festival of Children's Content from 2009 until 2019. So until now, I still serve as the international advisor at large of the festival. Every year, we have different countries of focus. So we started in 2012. We had Philippines, and we had Malaysia, we had India, we had China, we had Japan, and we had Indonesia as our country of focus in 2017. So I would invite you to look at the website of the Asian Festival of Children's Content. So you see here, like the different countries of focus that we had over the years. And then if we look at Indonesia, our guest illustrator at that time was Hardiono. Do you use his picture books in some of your read alouds? I think his images are just absolutely beautiful. And there's quite a number. So there's even like an Indonesian children's book catalog. I can share this with you if you wish, so that you will have, access to some of the recommended materials. And then we have here like a more, so these are the people we invited from Indonesia. Emilia Nazir, Galu Larasati. So there's a lot of, there's even, I think, a play, the Tarunajaya dance for 4 to 6 and 7 to 9. So again, it's about spicing up not just the reading itself, but the entire performance of storytelling, including dancing, singing, theater, and everything. So we had a very rich 2017 with so many Indonesian illustrators and authors who came as well. Okay, so okay. So let me end before we go on a break. This picture book that I absolutely adore, written and written and drawn by Henrietta, by Liniers. I think Liniers is Spanish, if I'm not mistaken, or Argentinian. You see the end papers? So that's an end paper. And it says here, a book is like a world you can carry with you. So I thought it was a fitting end when it comes to a quote, given our title, which is Read the Word, Read the World. So that's what books do. They open up the world to you. So, terima kasih. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Myra. So,
read some of the books. Please feel free to read the books that I brought with me if you did not bring any of your own. And then some of the picture books that I think Dr. Tina has already shared.
thank you very much, Dr. Myra. So let us give one more applause for her inspiring and delightful presentation. I really love your topics because I myself also like to read aloud for myself. Okay, so maybe it's because the delivery has finished. We give opportunities for the participants both offline and online to ask questions to Dr. Myra. Jadi sekarang kita sesi Q&A. Mungkin ada Akang Teteh, Ayah Bunda yang mau bertanya. Ya, disilakan. Baik, Bapak.
Oke, terima kasih. Izin menggunakan bahasa Indonesia. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semuanya. Izinkan saya memperkenalkan diri. Saya dari media Satu Guru Indonesia yang selalu bekerja sama dengan SPS UPI. Alhamdulillah dalam beberapa tahun ini selalu dapat perhatian dan terima kasih Prof sudah mengundang kami dari Satu Guru. Dan saya seorang guru di Kota Bandung, guru informatika tapi senang dengan dunia anak-anak gitu. Jadi nggak tahu ketemu anak-anak ya pinginnya nyapa gitu, halo mana tadi langit. Jadi materi ini keren banget. Saya punya pengalaman tentang membacakan buku cerita kepada anak itu dari sejak dalam kandungan. Jadi dalam kandungan saya sudah suka cerita gitu, halo gitu sambil megang perut ibunya. Kalau pegang perut bayinya kan nggak bisa. Maaf kalau ketawa. Nah, sampai pada saat lahiran udah matanya berfungsi, saya biasa langganan majalah koran bola. Koran bola sekarang sudah wafat. Udah nggak ada. Dan anak saya senang sekali lihat warna-warna gitu. Wah, gitu kan. Dan kebiasaan membacakan buku bacaan itu terakhir sampai SMP. Jadi SMP anak saya masih sempat saya bacakan cerita gitu. Ya biasanya kalau membaca sambil tiduran atau sambil telungkupan dan bacanya bisa di mana saja. Hal yang penting hari ini adalah the next. The next bagaimana kegiatan ini tidak melihat berapa jumlahnya. Tapi UPI peduli. Tepuk tangan dulu buat UPI. Mudah-mudahan saya bisa S2 di sini, Bu. Mimpi saya begitu. Next time hari ini jadi peserta, nanti di pembicara. Selain itu, karena saya senang anak-anak, saya jadi akhirnya mengembangkan diri dari tadinya baca. Di Indonesia terkenal sekali dengan one days, pada suatu hari, pada zaman dahulu kala, ada istana yang besar sekali. Istana besar? Oh my God. Di depan istana itu ada sebuah kolam berbentuk lingkaran yang airnya di tengah bisa meluncur. Oh my God. Jadi ngajak Bapak Ibu yang peduli dengan pendidikannya, karena saya punya keyakinan pendidikan yang keren itu bukan di kampus, bukan di sekolah, tapi di rumah. Ketika pendidikan itu di rumah, tata keramanya diajarkan, etika sopan santun, itu keren banget. Sekolah tidak terlalu sulit, tapi kalau di rumahnya nggak beres, repot juga buat sekolah ya. Nah, saya ingin membuat ini the next, Bu, media satu guru concern Bu dengan ini. Jadi next programnya apa, tinggal di-create aja. Kalau misalnya ngajak anak-anak atau sedini mungkin, bagaimana membaca itu menyenangkan. Tidak buru-buru, betul, tidak ingin selesai. Karena anak-anak itu luar biasa. Ini bukunya keren-keren, tapi buku kita tuh, Bu, maaf ya, di Indonesia itu, tapi sekarang saya masih tetap jatuh cinta dengan majalah Bobo. Jadi ketika ada 50 tahun, wah itu ngejar bener dapat gitu. Saya dapat alhamdulillah. Sekarang ada lagi yang cerpennya dan sebagainya. Saya koleksi sampai sekarang. Nah, artinya aktivitas membaca ini, karena saya sampai detik ini saya masih terus belajar dengan anak. Anak itu seorang manusia yang tangguh. Dia tidak pernah baperan. Dia pejuang yang keren gitu. Apalagi kalau dibacakan buku yang buat anak menyenangkan. Halo anak-anak, boleh dong tangannya ke atas. Anak-anak begitu. Tapi kalau saya nyapa buat ibu-ibu kan belum tentu. Hoream gitu kan, naon sih gitu kan, apa sih gitu kan. Nah tapi ini penting. Nah mudah-mudahan UPI nih mari dengan satu guru kita bikin program The Next, karena apalagi ada komunitasnya. Nah komunitas ini makhluk yang langka kalau menurut saya, komunitas yang langka, Read Aloud itu. Ya, jadi dikembangkan terus, ngajak bapak-bapaknya juga baca buat anak-anaknya meskipun hanya just 2 minutes, 3 minutes ya, sebelum tidur atau sebelum berangkat kerja itu juga keren juga, anaknya masih siap-siap. Sini bapak mau bacain buku, keren loh bukunya. Udah pakai baju dinas tuh, keren ini bukunya. Lihat nih, bukunya bagus, kasih buku yang gede. Saya selalu dapat buku-buku yang dari luar negeri tuh bagus-bagus, Bu. Indonesia tuh gitu kan. Nah, tapi kalau itu ada kan keren gitu. Dan gambarnya banyak. Kalau kita kebalik, teksnya banyak, orang udah bosen. Wah, gitu kan. Nah, tapi kalau misalnya pada cerita-ceritanya banyak. Jadi yang saya ingin sampaikan ke sini lebih ke lembaganya, ke UPI. The next kita ngapain setelah ini? Media satu guru siap untuk terus mengelanangkan ini gitu kan. Kalau perlu nanti kita ada berapa komunitas, Bu, yang diundang hari ini Read Aloud? Atau cuman satu orang? Oke, nanti satu orang. Nanti boleh nanti kita bertukar nomor handphone ya. Jangan tukar handphone. Ya, itu saja. Thank you so much for everything. Jadi hari ini saya bahagia sekali bisa ketemu langsung di sini, di sela-sela tetap sebenarnya lagi dinas juga, Bu. Tapi izin ke UPI, alasannya mau cari informasi tentang beasiswa S2. Biar diizinkan. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih dengan Bapak Bambang. Terima kasih Pak Bambang atas sharingnya ya Pak. So this is Pak Bambang, Dr. Myra. Pak Bambang is an informatics teacher, but he loves children. So just now, he shared a bit about how to tell the stories to the kids, and then he also experienced in reading aloud to his children since he is in a womb, and then he enjoyed it doing this activity until his children in junior high school, and then he also said that the cool education or the impactful education doesn't start from school or campus. He said it starts from the family. So that's why he tries to do that activities to. He also says his gratitude and love this program, and he hopes that UPI can collaborate with maybe more with you or other collaborators to create this kind of program, because it can build our awareness to just to share and spread the how lovable, how impactful the reading is. Because as you said before, I agree with you. It's not about to push the kids to read, but how we can engage them to our activities of reading, because it can build other sort of emotion connection there, and etc. So I think that's all the sharing from Bapak Bambang. Yeah. Thank you. All right. So maybe now we move to the online question. So there's one question from. So it's from Miss Vicky Octria. So she asked, I usually held regular read aloud in my mini community library. In a small room includes 15 children, one storyteller, and 2 facilitator. On a regular basis, we have one kid that always respond in a loud voice, whether to ask comments or just telling. At first, it's so engaging. All the children also laugh happily, but on some point, she said too much and bother other children. That's the problem. So the storyteller needs to control her. What's your advice for us, the storyteller, when face this situation? I agree.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Audrey, for reading that. Any advice from our experienced storytellers? What do you do if there is a kid who often responds out loud and it's been persistent? It's like initially it's okay, it's funny in the beginning, and then eventually it's disruptive to your rhythm of storytelling. So what do you do? Any suggestions?
Ada
Yes,
yang-
yes.
okay.
Hi. Yes, let's use the microphone so that the Zoom participants will hear you.
Okay, so hi everybody, I'm Dita. I was teaching at early childhood education.
Perfect.
So in my classroom, I also with 15 kids and I read aloud with the books also. But I started with giving the rules. Yeah, the rules. So I actually like to remind the children what is the rules, what are the rules if we want to read the book together. So we will sit in a carpet like a circle time. So I'm in the middle and they need to face me, and then they will talk if I call their name. So, and then they cannot interrupt me in the middle of what I'm saying. But if I'm done with one page, I will ask, is any opinion or what's your thought and something like that. If they like spontaneously talking, I will be quiet. Like, so it's like a code for them to be quiet as well. So I will stop my reading. Like, yeah, I just stop, and then if one student not really read my code, maybe the friends also like shh, like that, because they know the rules,
Yes.
something like that. And then in at the end of the reading, I will appreciate the students who will patiently waiting or waiting for the reading session, and I will also give them a chance to ask the opinions about the reading, about the content, and what is your feeling about this book, and then which part is your favorite, like that. I think that's
Thank you so much for sharing. If I may add as well to a very beautiful response already given by one of our UPI students, it would be to, first of all, like you said, set the rules in the beginning, but I'm sure whoever asked the question may already have rules in place. But I think it's a matter of making the rules exciting. So for example, you have a quiet voice, you have a loud voice, so you can demonstrate that. And then encourage them to use their quiet voices. So whenever you would prompt the child to use the quiet voice, they know that they should do that. Another strategy, if being disruptive, so I think it's a matter of turning it on and turning it off. Yes, it works. It works. You would just turn off and on. So another a surefire strategy would be to get the child to serve as your assistant. So if the child is always speaking out loud, get the child to come near you, hold your book. It's really about giving the child some level of responsibility and then instructing him that as your assistant, he should use a quiet voice. Yeah. So if it's like a game, then the child, so think like a child always. So if it's like a game of sorts, then they will listen. Yeah. So I hope that helps. Yeah. So maybe one more question. Yeah, one more, and then one more question from the audience. Two actually. So I think rather than have the workshop, let's just have the Q&A, and then if we have a little bit of a time again, I can, if you're okay. Yeah, and then we can invite the kids to come forward and to listen. Yeah, okay, so one question, yes.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mohon izin pakai bahasa Indonesia karena saya ya kurang paham bahasa Inggris. Barusan juga cuman sedikit yang ketangkap. Mudah-mudahan mah ya ilmunya dapatlah, dan mudah-mudahan nantinya akan ada ulang dan ada terjemahannya gitu ya. Perkenalkan, nama saya Megantari. Saya bukan seorang guru atau aktivis kan gitu ya. Hanya seorang ibu rumah tangga yang memang tertarik dengan read aloud karena ingin menanamkan kecintaan buku terhadap anak. Jadi saya memang tertarik dengan dunia read aloud itu, ingin menanamkan ke anak biar nantinya bisa cinta buku gitu ya. Makanya saya ikut komunitas Read Aloud. Alhamdulillah beberapa kali ikut pelatihan, ikut kegiatan-kegiatan untuk lebih memperluas pengetahuan. Nah dari kegiatan-kegiatan Read Aloud itu kan saya sering share. Saya sering diajak teman saya gitu untuk membacakan buku nyaring ke anak-anak TK. Nah, dari situ juga kayak saya juga mencobalah untuk memberanikan diri dengan ilmu-ilmu yang sudah saya dapat. Cuman mungkin ini pertanyaannya lebih ke teknis gitu ya dalam membacakan buku nyaring. Saya kadang-kadang sering dalam membacakan buku nyaring itu, ketika membaca buku nyaring atau read aloud itu disisipi kayak lagu-lagu atau gerakan-gerakan yang sesuai dengan bacaannya, kayak misalnya menendang, saya ikut menendang gitu ya. Terus kalau misalnya kadang-kadang ada nyanyian yang memang nyambung dengan bacaannya, saya ikut nyanyi juga gitu. Nah itu apakah efektif atau memang cukup dengan intonasi yang sesuai dengan bacaannya saja? Mungkin itu saja sih pertanyaan dari saya. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Ibu Megantari. So, Doctor, she is Miss Megantari and a housewife. And then she's also interested with the Read Aloud. So there, she joins the community of Read Aloud. And then, but her question is, when she's trying to read aloud, she also tries to make movement and then singing based on the story or based on the text. So the question is it effective to do sort of things, or is it just enough just to use the tone like that? So that's the question.
So that's a very good question. I think for each storyteller or for every reader, there are different unique approaches as to how you go about doing the read aloud. If what works best for you is including and infusing song, dance, theater, go for it. Yes, go for it. I think it's even more joyful that that way. It's really a unique kind of approach. There is no one surefire way of doing it well. I think you need to find your own voice. You need to find your own unique style that would engage your listeners even more. And I'm glad that you shared that experience with us. Maybe you could demonstrate for us, and we will learn from you as well. That is wonderful. That is lovely. Thank
Ibu mau butuh di jadi jawaban dari dokter itu sebenarnya tidak ada atau tidak ada patokan untuk satu metode itu efektif atau enggak. Lakukan saja apa yang dirasa efektif, senyamannya saja, dan itu tergantung dari ibunya juga. Bahkan juga itu bisa membuat lebih suasana lebih gembira, lebih riang seperti itu. Jadi tidak ada batasan atau tidak ada efektif atau enggaknya. Jadi tergantung. Terima kasih Ibu Megantari sudah bertanya. Selanjutnya kita ke nanya selanjutnya.
you. And we'll have read aloud.
Ya.
I can read from here. I think we can ask the kids to sit down on the floor, if that's fine.
Yes. Hello, Professor. My name is Yani. I'm a mother of 8 years old boys, and I'm a teacher also in early church. I have an experience with my son from his 2 years old. I read with him books, and then when he's 4 or for almost 5 years. He's reading a book by himself with an accent, exactly what with me with the same accent when I say with I never teach him letters, numbers, or colors. It's I just sit down and read a book for you, okay? And then he said, read. And I said, you read that book? It's some accent as well. It's my surprises. Then it is my sharing with others that a young mom or young student here, they also will be mom next, all right? Read aloud is the best your children how to read. And the best way to know them with the meaning of the book. And now he's a second grade. I don't have any push to myself to, you have to understand the what is the school. He don't have any difficult in school because he understand what the teacher said to him. That's my, all right, that is the best way. This the cheap way, the fun way, yeah, right. And also the serious way. And not also read, but also the meaning. But now as a teacher, I have what is called obstacle with the parents. They want the children read. They want their children to write. In earlier 5, 4, they want to. I have my children to ready to read or write when they get started to do elementary school. That is my schedule. How I want to share with you your experience. How to share the parent aloud to them. Okay, thank you, Professor.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the question. I think there were several points that I noted from your sharing. One is that the teaching is incidental, meaning you don't set out to teach your children to read, but rather it's incidental that they learn because they learn through imitation. They learn through observation. That is why your young boy copies your exact accent, your voice, because you did not teach your child to do it, but rather, again, the teaching is incidental as you do what you love doing. It just happens spontaneously and naturally. So I think a lot of it really is educating parents and doing workshops like this, which is what, Dr. Tina is also doing. So I think I'm preaching to the converted here, meaning you already know what you need to do, basically, because you are experts. I think the challenge is how to reach out to other members of the community who may not have the time, who may not have maybe even the resources to travel here, and just reaching out to the furthest of the furthest even, to get them to understand that it's not so much about reading for literacy, but reading to understand oneself and reading to understand the world. A lot of parents, we also cannot hold judgment towards parents who are exhausted, tired, a full day's work, who may not, even if they wish to, even if they want to, they really just don't have the energy left to do what needs to be done. And I think that's where schools come in. That's where teachers have a role to play. That's where libraries also have a role to play so that we can supplement whatever is not being done through these kinds of educational spaces. So it's really about educating the parents, and you yourselves are, perfectly capable of conducting those workshops too. And I think they would listen to you. Yeah. Okay. So I think now is the time for the final read aloud. We have 10 minutes left, and maybe
Rismaya's daughter to help me? Would you like to help me read aloud?
Mau
Yeah?
ngebantu baca nyaring nggak? Yuk. Ayo.
Yay! There is another chair, then we can sit together, maybe, or we can share the chair. Come. Yeah? You want to hear a story? Langit? Yes? Okay, so please, the kids can sit down here. Yes, come join if you want. If you don't, it's okay. Are you ready? Yes? You've been very patient. The kids have been very patient. Yeah. Yay. Okay. All right. So maybe I'll need some help with the microphone. What is this? Apa ini? Yeah? Kapal? A ship. Wow. Good. I wonder why. Maybe it's the feedback here. Okay. So the title of the book is The Red Tree. The author and the from Australia. His name is Sean Tan. Yeah? And Teresa will help me read. Yeah? Let's give a hand to Teresa. Yay! Okay. I'm shy too, you know. Okay. No? She's shy. I am shy too, you know. So this is for Inari. Anyone whose name is Inari here? Inari. Okay. Can you see what is going on here? Yes. So I'll read first and then you will read the next page. Yeah. Okay. So sometimes the day begins with nothing to look forward to. What is the kid feeling here? Look at the child. What is the child feeling?
Kenapa ya?
Yeah, so the day begins, nothing to look forward to.
Oh.
Sorry, I skipped pages. Okay. Yeah, actually, it's correct. Yeah. So you can read this.
Darkness overcomes you.
Darkness overcomes you. Where is the child?
Mana anaknya ya?
Where is the child? Where is the child now?
Nobody understands.
Nobody understands. Where is the child now?
Mana ya anaknya ya? Mana ya?
Baby.
Kelihatan nggak?
Hiding. Yes. Very good. Yes. The world is a deaf machine. No one hears the child. See? Where is the child now? Mm. Yeah. See? No one is listening to the child. Skip a page. The world is a deaf machine without sense or reason. Yeah, everything does not make sense. They don't know what's happening. They don't know what's going on. Where is the child? Good job. Good job. Very good. Yeah, he doesn't know what's going on. Sometimes.
Sometimes you wait and wait and wait and wait.
Uh-huh. You like to say it too? And wait. And wait. And wait.
Nothing.
Nothing ever happens. They wait and they wait and they wait and they wait. Nothing happens. Where's the child? Where's the child? Where's the child? Oh. Yeah. Yeah.
Then all your troubles come at once.
Wonderful things are passing you by. See, wonderful things are passing you by. And for the adults, there is a padlock here with a word. Can you read the word in the padlock?
Regret.
Regret. So wonderful things are passing you by. The child is looking outside of the window, padlocked with the word regret. Where? Where? There. Very good. Very good. The child is trapped. So, terrible fate. Like, look at the child. It's like everything is going wrong, right? Everything is going wrong. Yes. Good. Ito. Yeah. What color is the hair? Red. Very good. So it's like back.
Sometimes you just don't know what you are supposed to do.
Sometimes that happens, right? Sometimes you don't know what you're supposed to do, right? You don't know what you're. Where's the child? Yeah, that's the baby. Yeah, she doesn't know what she's supposed to do. She's confused, right? Or who you are meant to be. Huh? She doesn't know. Yeah, who she, right? Or where you are. She doesn't even know where she is. Where is she? She's lost. Yeah. Yes. Do you know where you are? Where are you? Where are you?
Tahu nggak lagi di mana sekarang?
Where are you now?
Sekarang lagi di mana?
So the child is feeling lost, sad, and alone, right?
Sendirian dia.
She doesn't know what she's supposed to be, where she's going, where she's supposed to go. And the day seems to end the way it began, which is like nothing, right? There's the child. Yes, very good. And then, but suddenly, there it is, right in front of you, bright and vivid, quietly waiting. What is waiting for the child? What is waiting? What is See? She's about to open her door. What will she see inside? Yeah? What is happening? What will she see? Yeah. Just as you imagined. So it starts off very quiet, very dark, and then eventually there is a lead up, and you see that the children's response very, very different from the adults. Read this to adults, a lot of them would cry, especially with that vision of the child padlocked with the word regret. Well, when we had Sean Tan, I asked for a volunteer from one of the kids who attended his session and one of our undergraduate students. So the child read in English, and then our college undergraduate student translated in Arabic. So Sean Tan was listening as we did that. So it was a very, very powerful, beautiful experience. Thank you, Langit. And thank you so much for reading. Yes, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Yay!
Okay, so what Dr. Myra, and we end with the read aloud itself with the kids and anak-anaknya. For that, Dr. Myra. All right, so before we close, maybe I am going to give some short summary from this session in Bahasa Indonesia. Jadi sesi kali ini membahas tentang read aloud ya, membaca nyaring untuk anak-anak. Dan tadi Dr. Myra juga menekankan bahwa untuk menumbuhkan lifelong readers, pembaca sepanjang hayat, kita harus menanamkan agar si anak itu untuk mencintai buku at the first place, bukan pada kegiatan membacanya sebagai memahami sesuatu, tetapi sebagai sesuatu yang dia cintai yang kedepannya nanti akan berguna. Kemudian di sini juga tadi dijelaskan ada beberapa strategi ya untuk membangun membaca nyaring atau read aloud yang interaktif. Jadi jangan menggunakan sudut pandang kita sebagai orang tua atau orang dewasa, tapi kita menempatkan posisi kita juga pada anak-anak. Kira-kira anak-anak suka nggak ya sama buku ini? Jadi let them, biarkan mereka atau interest. Kemudian di sini juga tadi Dr. Myra membagikan pengalamannya ya tentang read aloud bersama orang tua juga. Perhaps that's all from our session today. Mungkin itu saja yang bisa kami persembahkan, dan kurang lebih sampai jumpa di kegiatan selanjutnya, dan terima kasih kepada Dr. Tina ya. Oh iya, besok kita juga ada sesi terakhir bersama Dr. So sekarang kita waktunya presentasi, taking pictures all together here. So thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Untuk peserta yang di Zoom, kita boleh standby dulu sebentar ya untuk dokumen. Boleh on cam ya, teman-teman, ayah bunda, Kang Teteh, boleh on cam. Hi, Miss Milan, how are you? How's there in Malaysia?
Yeah, okay.
How's life in Malaysia, Miss Milan? Yeah, our student.
It was actually a very nice session with a lot of input. Thank you, Ochi. Life is okay here, busy with the kids.
Ready, taking pictures. Maybe with style ya. Yeah, with style. Alright. Tunjukkan gaya terbaikmu. Once more. Thank you, photographer. Pakai handphone. Thank you.
Bye, Ochi.
Mohon tunggu sebentar ya, Profesor Myra sedang ke toilet dulu. Udah beberapa lap? Oh, udah. Ya, kita akan foto bersama, boleh di open cam dulu. Silakan peserta yang di Zoom untuk open cam. Kita akan foto dulu. Hah? Tapi ininya apa? Untuk teknisnya? Iya. Mau nunggu nggak, Bu? Langsung aja. Oke. Udah aja 3, 2.
Okay. On my count ya. 1. Entar dulu.
Kali dia. Kalau nggak samping Mami duduk.
Iya ya, mau foto. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Give your best smile, cheese. Udah. Oke. Lagi nggak?
Tadi udah kayaknya. Titip dulu lah ke Pak Firman.
Oke, one more. Once again, sekali lagi. 1, 2, 3.
Itu ada.
Oh, di situ aja nggak?
Profesor Myra.
Kita nih foto lagi sama yang
Right, on my count. 1, 2, 3, cheese. Okay, yes.
Udah aja kan.
Alright. Okay, we're good. Yes, all set. Thank you.
Please, wonderful. Making them more special with the children. Yes. Right? Yes.
Terima kasih teman-teman yang Zoom. Izin mengakhiri Zoom. Jangan lupa besok kita masih ada general lecture di auditorium SPS UPI masih bersama Profesor Dr. Myra akan membahas mengenai apa kemarin ya? Sosial emosional. Yes. Oke, ditunggu besok. Terima kasih.